Weissman, you mentioned in your bio that you had spent some years in Tamil Nadu where you had your PhD and you occasionally used to visit Cochin. Now, Cochin has a very long legacy relationship with the Judaism. We know there's a street called the Jew Street, and it is said that the Jews came in Cochin from the time of King Solomon, and of course later migration also. There is interesting figure. There is interesting fact that there is a version of Malayalam dialect called the Jewish Malayalam. I also read that Jewish Malayalam has certain words, loan words, which are very familiar with a very close to the Mappila Malayalam, which is the Muslim dialect of the Malayalam. Cochin is a very interesting melting pot of course, a lot of cultures. But I think in the entire state, there is a Jew street only in Cochin. So, can you share some of your experiences that you had while you were at Cochin and what you feel about Kerala? How Kerala sees maybe a different kind of ambience from the rest of the country in terms of communal harmony, education, cooperation, tolerance. Can you share some insight, please?
So first of all, I have to tell you, as a Jewish person, there is nothing more shocking than seeing a street called Jew Street. So I grew up in Philadelphia on a street that was known as U Road, Yew Road. It's the name of a tree, and our street was constantly being defaced by anti-Semites, and they would write Jew Road on it. And that was considered to be a horrible thing, and they'd paint swastikas and horrible things. So the idea of a place called Jew Street was bizarre to me, right? Such a strange thing. Okay, Jew Street. Who would do that? But what I found was this very strange sense of welcoming. And I arrived on Jew Street, and all of a sudden it's like, you're Jewish, the synagogue's right there. It was just it was a very strange experience. Um, and I had the opportunity to spend several Jewish holidays in Cochin, and I cannot tell you how beautiful it was. I mean, I'm very sorry that when I was there, there was still a little bit more of a community, and the holidays were just beautiful. The synagogue was decorated with garlands of jasmine and silks on the walls, and the windows were open, and that beautiful fresh air was coming in. There's a little garden outside the synagogue. I mean, just absolutely, just beautiful. And the traditions of Cochin, the traditions of Jewish Cochin are just really unparalleled in their beauty. Um, Beautiful lamp outside the synagogue, and and the synagogue itself, and sort of the synagogue in Jewtown, is just beautiful. Um, a very spiritual, deep atmosphere, and the language. You mentioned Jewish Malayalam. So Jewish Malayalam, when it's when it's sung, there's beautiful songs in Jewish Malayalam. Some of them about the Jewish king. There was a Jewish king in Kerala, Joseph Rabban. People don't know that there was a Jewish kingdom in South India. Like, who knew, right? In Kerala, there was actually a Jewish kingdom. And there's songs about Joseph Rabban, and other songs. And the language is kind of an old Malayalam. It's very close to what in Tamil is called Mani Pravalam, which is kind of a mixture. It's Tamil with some Sanskrit, but of course with Hebrew words and Aramaic words from the Jewish context. But just amazing culture. And people had handwritten books of these songs written out in Malayalam, and really something very, very special. So yes, there's a really unique Jewish culture in Cochin, which continues. Actually, there are Cochini synagogues in Israel now, and they continue the customs of Cochin, and it's really something very, very special. Um, and yeah, it was. And in general, I mean, Kerala in 30 years ago, was much more educated, I think, than almost any other place almost any other place in India that I visit. I mean, just I think the literacy rate was off the charts compared to other states. And I was, of course, younger then, but I was just like I am today. I love to have conversations. And one of the things I found in Kerala was this amazing ability to converse. That people that, that I met students and so on, we talked about politics, we talked about religion, we talked about everything. It was kind of like a very lively student culture, a very lively intellectual culture. I guess that's the best way to put it. And as you said, I mean, that kind of coexistence, there was I've heard tell, I don't know whether it's true, but I heard that in Mattanchery, where the synagogue is, that there was a weekly card game. And there were Muslims, Christians, and Muslim Christians and Jews. And there was one Jain guy. And apparently he was in charge of the food, because he was the one person who was so vegetarian that everybody trusted him for the food. So he was in charge of bringing the snacks. That just does not happen in most places. And certainly what I saw in synagogue, I mean, it was amazing that outside the synagogue, on our holidays, there would be crowds of Christians, Hindus, and Muslims coming to greet us as we came out of the synagogue.
Okay.
Coming out of the synagogue, it's crazy. Like, it doesn't happen anyplace else in the world that I know of. They're waiting outside, and they said, wish us a happy holiday. It was crazy. But really, it was very nice.